Now, when we're talking about revenue impact in a B2B SaaS environment, we hear a lot about NRR, net revenue retention, and churn. How much of responsibility should the product team take for those numbers versus the customer success team?
Product owns regret churn, while the CS owns the relationship churns. So if I have to explain the regret churn, it is when a customer is trying to say system is breaking down too oftenly, or they are not able to build the trust with the product, or they have to still do a lot of work manually. The product team owning the churn is very uncomfortable for them. But if we start taking the responsibility as a product manager or a product team, you are doing a better product prioritization. So I'll take an example wherein what we have seen is expectations setting problem. There are a few customer requests that are keep on coming, and customers are trying to tell their pain points, but as a leadership, product is not able to prioritize this because of multiple factors. Either the pain point was not understood it correctly, was not prioritized at all. It could be the reason, or it was prioritized but it was not picked up because of a lower engineering bandwidth. But we cannot go back and tell the customers about the problems, but it is slowly burning the relationship with the customers. If we go ahead and try to commit, this will come up in 3 months or 2 months, and product is not getting back or no updates, and they feel like they are left in between. So those kind of situations really needs to be managed by the product. And if such situations are happening, then it is the product's responsibility, which will ultimately results into the churn altogether. So it
Okay. So you're saying if it's from a product side, it's the responsibility of the product team. If it's on, let's say, relationship and all, then it comes down to customer success. Great. Naman, as we're already talking about data, that brings me to the next question. What is that one North Star metric you believe every B2B product executive should look at, let's say, every morning, every week, every month?
For me, the one metric is time to value specifically. So how quickly a customer can reach to the meaningful outcome without any human help. So what happens is, like in B2B SaaS, it's not only that revenue comes from the feature that we are building. It is mainly from the confidence that we are building with the customer. So once the customer starts saying, like, whatever the workflow you have defined for me, it actually works. I can run my day on this. Then it comes to the revenue part.
I think that's a great point. Now let's talk about the moment of truth, the launch. We have all seen features launched to silence. Now, how do you measure if a product launch was successful? Is it adoption, upsell, or just the lack of complaints?
It's majorly on the adoption, but I would make sure that the message is sent clearly. So primarily, it is like the power users of your product. Once they start using the product, they are adopting the product, and what are they, those are the best indicators if you start measuring them. So majority of time what happens is, if you go into the demo calls with the customers, during the calls, or during the meeting, they will, wow, this is a great product. But what we end up is they are not using it at all. Okay, if there are senior members of their experts who are really using the workflow or the product, that's a great win. So we have launched multiple times couple of products. When taken to the customers, some customers start using it. But when we go to the user who is already well versed about the entire industry, maybe in the meeting, because they will start looking, yeah, they will go ahead and start using it. But ultimately what we see is they are not even touching the product or the workflow. That's a red flag. So this mindset many times feel very harsh. We have to maybe go back into our drawing board and then make a real changes again and again. But ultimately, once the power users are not using it, doesn't give any satisfaction at all.
Okay, great. So, as you rightly said, I think adoption is the most crucial factor, because if you're buying a tool but you're not utilizing it, sort of no point. No point of an upsell, or even if there's no complaint, that means they're not even using it in the first place. So, Naman, looking forward, the landscape is shifting rapidly with the whole advent of AI. Now, with AI integrations becoming standard in B2B SaaS, how does that change the product roadmap? Are we moving away from a UI heavy product to invisible automated workflows? What's your opinion on that?
Definitely, there is a demand, or there is a change from UI that demands a lot of efforts to where the system that removes the decisions making altogether. So if I have to explain for an example, Let's suppose earlier, while creating any automation process, the workflow, there is a lot of rules the customer needs or configuration that customer need to go through. But now, using the newer system, ask is like, there should not be any configuration, that the system should learn by itself about all these decisions based on the use cases and demands. It also it understand the what the user wants, and based on the prompts given, it should act accordingly. So, and it gives a lot of flexibility. Like, as a user, I don't need to, maybe, for a particular instance, I need to go in and make a change in the configuration. But based on the use cases, the demand, just need to give a right set of prompts. So definitely there is a shift, but it doesn't means like, we are getting rid of the UI altogether. It just needs how we were earlier defining the rule-based systems. Now we are defining it based on the prompts and making sure there is a visibility about what has been asked, what needs to be done, what decisions has been taken by the system itself, and what are the outcomes, with proper reasoning for each and every step.
I think that's a really good point of bringing the creative part. And yes, the world is changing for sure. And with the whole advent of AI, can I say we are moving towards an era wherein everything is going to be an invisible automated workflow. So, Naman, for the listeners who are the PMs wanting to grow in their career, what is that one skill that they likely lack and need to develop immediately to grow and excel in their careers?
The one skill most senior PM lacks is, which I feel they need to build immediately. I believe it is taking a decisions with ownership under ambiguity. So what I've seen is like, when I interact with any senior PMs, they are very good at doing these structural problems. They will gather the right input signals, take the proper feedback, align with the stakeholders, write the proper documentations altogether. But the executive role is slightly different. You are not rewarded for just putting the alignment, getting. You are rewarded for making calls when alignment doesn't exist. What I've seen at an executive level, you have to take a decision. And most of the time, you might end up doing the wrong decisions as well. Nobody is perfect. Nothing you are going to make it as a perfect tool. Don't get attached to what solution you are trying to build. Go with the decisions. So if I have to give a piece of advice to a senior PM, how they can start building this is, first of all, practice. So stop escalating, even if it is a hard call. So don't just go ahead and, hey, I've escalated, my job is done over there. Instead, as I said, start practicing. So, you can very politely say like, hey, this is my recommendation, these are the risks, I believe we should go forward.
I think that's a solid advice, and all the PMs definitely need to follow this advice. All right, Naman, we are going to wrap this podcast with a rapid fire round. I'll ask the question, you give me a short, punchy answer. Let's begin with the first one. Sales led growth or product led growth? You have to pick one for a new startup. Which is it?
I would say sales led, but with product led intent.
Okay, next question. What is the best book or resource for a B2B product leader?
I would suggest a book by Neil Ayal, Hooked.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's a really good read for anyone out there. Now, the final question. If you could give one advice to a sales leader trying to work better with their product counterpart, what would it be?
Bring problems, not promises.
Because I think that's something that every sales leader should abide by. So, Naman, that concludes our podcast. It was great having you on the show. And of course, all our listeners would love your perspective and your inputs about from career growth to things to keep in mind to how do you work better with counterparts. I think it was a great podcast. So thanks again for your time. And it was great having you on the show.
Thank you, Aryan. Thank you for having me on Beyond Selling. I really enjoyed the conversation, thoughtful questions, and a great workflow. Great flow. Appreciate the opportunity to share my journey on this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.